Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Wednesday Words. Yes, I know it's actually Thursday. Wednesday Words on a Thursday. How crazy is that? But somehow the week just escaped from me. Happens to us all, I guess. However, it's really good timing because I don't know if you're aware, but today is International Self-Care Day. International Self-Care Day. Yeah. How are you feeling about that? And I've got a question for you. How often do you practice self-care? That is, care of yourself. Are you one of these people who is constantly on the go, who is constantly rushing around, paying attention to everyone else, everything else, and who never takes a breath? And just what would it take to slow down, to be able to stop those racing thoughts, to be able to focus on you and give yourself the care you so deserve? I'm not suggesting for 1 minute it's easy for any of us, especially those of you who have family commitments. Those of us might be parents, constantly on the go, so much so that we put ourselves bottom of our list. And what happens if we go on doing this day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year? Our minds and our bodies get completely worn out. Today I've been reading about a psychologist called Michael Seligman. In fact, Martin Seligman. I told you I'm not going to edit this. Anyway, Martin coins the term positive psychology, which actually comes from a psychologist called Abraham Maslow back in the 1920s. And positive psychology is all about the pursuit of happiness. And I've been looking at Martin Seligman's website. I'll get the name right in a minute. Seligman. And it's the pursuit of happiness. And there's loads and loads of resources on there. I will actually post the link for you at the end of this video. But one particular list of words that he's got on there from a letter that a young student wrote to him particularly caught my attention. I'll read it to you. The student wrote, "You wouldn't remember me. I used to sit in the back of the class. I didn't talk and I didn't listen until one day I was thinking about ending my life. But something Confucius said about the rectification of the mind spoke directly to me. I realized I was a prisoner of my own mind and decided to set myself free." Now, it was those words, a prisoner of my own mind, that really resonated with me. So often, I believe, we get caught up in our own minds, we get completely overwhelmed, and we are limited by what we think we can't do. But how would it be for each and every one of us if we opened up our minds, if we looked at a broader horizons around us, instead of perhaps becoming insular and focusing only on the moment. Sometimes, if we see the bigger picture and we apply a holistic approach, including our mind and our body, this can be really helpful. And Martin Seligman also talks about a state of mind he discovered, coined by a psychologist whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce, called the flow state. You may have heard the flow state. It's more than just concentrating. It's about being fully present, fully focused, and giving our whole attention to an activity that we're engaged in. And during that process, this can have a calming effect on our mind. And we change our state, our physical state, our stress levels are reduced, we become calmer, and he calls this state the flow state. Interestingly enough, I was carrying out an activity this morning, and it's what I would really recommend to you. It was on a podcast that I always listen to by somebody called Jay Shetty. And Jay was saying that he'd like us to try a new type of mindful relaxation. So we have the deep breathing. You may have heard of square breathing. So we breathe in through our nose to the count of 4, hold it to the count of 4, blow out through our mouth as if we're blowing out a candle wick to the count of 6, hold our breath, and then repeat that action. So as we're doing the breathing, he said, lift your left hand and take a look at it. Then touch your thumb and trace your fingers round, all the way round and all the way back. And whilst this is going on, of course, you're doing the deep breathing. And then try the other hand. Finger to the thumb, all the way round. And all the way back. It is unbelievably calming and such a simple activity that can be done by anyone, virtually anywhere. I say virtually because I wouldn't recommend doing it while you're driving the car, but we can sit in a chair and do this activity all the way round. And if we pay attention to our hands, this is also a very calming sensation. How often do we look at our hands? How often do we see the vein lines? It is so important on this day in particular, International Self-Care Day, to look after ourselves, because if we don't, we pay the ultimate price in terms of our mental health and well-being, but also our physical fitness. I'd really love to know what you think of this video. Please post your comments below and suggestions for any other topics you'd like to hear about. That would be fabulous. And I will speak to you again next week. Take care. Bye for now.